समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The central lesson of 88 hours of Op Sindoor is exactly the same as the lesson that the world has learned from nearly 4 years of fighting in Ukraine after the Russian invasion there. And that lesson is that the modern warfare will now almost entirely be non-contact warfare. What this means is that physically the two sides will not see each other, they will not engage with each other. The usual thing of going and taking a picket or going with their bayonets disappeared a long time back. All of that will not happen. Now warfare will be conducted on keyboards at long distances. Now India and Pakistan are not the most high-tech militaries in the world, and yet for 88 hours all that we saw was this kind of warfare. We saw drones, we saw missiles, we saw aircraft used. Those aircraft also stayed well within their airspace. Roughly, I would say in each case about at least 100 kilometers set back within their airspace. That is the definition of non-contact warfare. See, Ukraine, for example, the early casualties in Ukraine were carried out by either drones, Bayraktar drones, then Bayraktars disappeared because others figured them out. Then came the phase of artillery, which still continues, and this is long-range artillery, and a lot of it is long-range guided artillery. So much so that this created a global shortage of long-range artillery shells, also creating a black market, which I must say the Pakistanis have made very good use of. That done. What is it that we look at in the future? Once we know that all warfare will now be at a distance, the longer your range, the more accurate your weapon, the greater the lethality of your weapon, and the greater your ability to protect it or conceal it. That will be the biggest deterrent. Warfare now is about not fighting a war, it's about avoiding a war, and that is called deterrence. That is what India needs specifically, particularly in the case of Pakistan. Because Pakistan has a problem. Pakistan has a depth problem. Geographic depth of the country is limited. It's a ribbon-shaped country, and that was exposed during Op Sindoor as well, when almost every Pakistani airbase east of the Indus was hit. I think one west of the Indus was also hit, and if this had gone on, probably if this had lasted another 12 hours, all the major bases across the Indus also would have been hit because the country does not have depth. Now, in that situation, what is it that India can do further? Because India doesn't want to fight a war. India has to avoid a war. What can India do to deter Pakistan further? And what can India do to deter Pakistan and China in another domain? That's the maritime domain. Because with Pakistan, it's very simple that India has the Indian Navy is much larger. It follows the doctrine of sea control, whereas the Pakistan Navy being much smaller, being much more submarine reliant. Remember, they brought submarines first in the subcontinent. They believe in sea denial and rely on their submarines. China, on the other hand, is now building very large ships, very large aircraft carriers, and also in large numbers. Plus, they're also converting a lot of the normal cargo ships also into a combat role. They can fit missiles onto them, and that can overwhelm anybody's defenses. Now, for Indian Navy to grow so large as to fight the Chinese, if push comes to the shove, that will be very challenging by way of closing that gap. What closes that gap? These gaps are closed by long-range weapons, and those are missiles, long-range missiles. Once again, when you see missiles, you come back to the same issues that I had raised earlier. Range, accuracy, lethality, and your ability to protect your assets or your launchers. All these are important factors. The slower a missile, and that's the problem with cruise missiles, the slower a missile, the less difficult, I will not say easier, the less difficult it is for the other side to intercept it. The faster a missile, the tougher it is for the other side to intercept it. It's as simple as that. And that is what has led to, first from subsonic missiles to ballistic missiles, which go up across the atmosphere and then come down with the force of gravity, so they become very fast. Or now hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic missiles are of multiple types. Those that become hypersonic because in their downward phase they gather momentum and energy, and also those that are powered to be hypersonic. What India did this Republic Day, and this is what has caught the global defense media's attention, India displayed many new weapon systems, including MBT Arjun, which has been under development for a long time, was displayed, BrahMos missiles, many other things were displayed. But the thing that caught everybody's attention was the long-range anti-shipping missile, LR-AShM, which is an Indian-made, fully Indian-made hypersonic glide vehicle missile. You want to read more about that, you have to go back to a November 17, 2024 story done by our defense editor Snehesh Alex Philip. That's when the second of these missiles were launched. Second, it's presumed because that was numbered, the vehicle was numbered 02, which means the first one that was launched in 2023 must have been 01. After that, Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, had tweeted calling it a great achievement. Snehesh Alex Philip had done this story. Please see it on your screen. I will also share a link with you. This missile now, almost 1 year and 4 months after that second launch, India felt bold enough now, confident enough to display in the Republic Day parade. What is this missile? This missile is a monster. This is not a small missile. This is a very heavy missile. It's 14 meters long, little over 14 meters long, 46 feet, you can convert it, 1.4 meter in diameter. So it's quite a large missile, and it is 20 tons. That's the reason I said it's a monster. Once again, immediately the moment you see that this is a 20-ton missile, you know that at least in this form, it's not going to be possible for an aircraft to carry it. Probably it's too heavy even for a ship to carry and fire. This is a ground-launched anti-shipping missile. However, what is anti-shipping can be used against a ground target as well. There is no law saying that you will only use it against a ship. However, this is a missile which can go up to Mach 10. That is 10 times the speed of sound. It goes up to Mach 10, but average speed from whatever details we are reading is about Mach 5. Why? Because this is a missile that does not, a ballistic missile goes in a perfectly parabolic trajectory like this, where it's programmed to go and strike a particular target. It can be targeted very accurately also. Then there is air ballistic missiles. Air ballistic missiles don't go across the atmosphere. They still stay within the atmosphere, but they again acquire a ballistic trajectory. That will be a bit like the Fateh 1 and Fateh 2 missiles that the Pakistanis used against India in Operation Sindoor. One of those was intercepted over Sirsa. All of us saw that beautiful interception. You can again see it. It just needs Googling, or maybe I will try and share a link with you. That was intercepted by an MR-SAM or Barak 8 missile. Those are shallow ballistic or air ballistic because they are not going in space. In the middle of them, there is a third category, and that category is a bit of both. That category goes high enough, becomes a kind of quasi-ballistic, and then the engine power or the rocket motor that the missile carries can make it go up and down a little bit. That's an action that's called porpoising. And when did I first hear about that action? That's when I'd gone to cover General Zia's death or assassination, whatever you call it. And I'd gone actually to get my ticket changed or maybe confirmed or something. And the travel agent said he was a former Pakistan Air Force pilot. I'm taking you back to 1988. And I asked him, so what do you think happened to General Zia's aircraft? So he said, from whatever he hears, it looks like the plane either stalled or something exploded, and it went into a porpoising motion. And I didn't know what porpoising means, so I had to come back and pick up a dictionary. Those days there was no Google, and read it. So porpoising motion is a little bit like this. So this missile also is capable of being manipulated like that on its power, which means it can go up and down a little bit, makes it that much tougher for anybody trying to intercept it. Now, if you see the information that came out after the 2024 test in Snehesh's story, that information told us, that was Government of India statement, that downrange ship stationed there, they recorded the missile, its trajectory and its impact, and these confirmed, I'm quoting from the statement, these confirmed successful terminal maneuvers and impact with high degree of accuracy. Which means even when the missile in its flight, it's chasing a target, suppose it's a ship, then ship also can move, ship will try to maneuver and get out of the way of the missile, because they will know at some point of time that the missile is coming. You can also guide that missile on its way to the target. And that is what the government said. These ships stationed to record the missile's movements confirmed, which means the missile already has a high degree of accuracy and you can have a fair bit of confidence firing it. Now, what is it that the missile will be used for? I don't know. But I can give you some idea. I can give you some idea from geography. If the missile has a range of say 1500 kilometers. Now, this is basically a coastal defense battery equivalent. In the past, navies would put coastal defense batteries, which means if attacking battleships were coming, you could hit them through your batteries. And I will tell you a story about that before I let you go, but not just now. In fact, to understand how these different kinds of missiles work, the different categories, ballistic, quasi-ballistic or air ballistic, and also the one that is part ballistic and part glide, I'm sharing with you a Chinese image, a Chinese graphic, which is self-explanatory. I'm also picking it up, I'm lifting it from an article in TWZ, The War Zone, which is an American publication, and this is an article by a well-known byline there, Thomas Newdick. One missile is loaded on one transporter, a 12 by 12, very fast moving transporter, usual large truck. It can move very quickly. It can be moved very quickly from one place to the other. It can be kept in concealment, can be even kept in an underground shelter and taken out for firing and taken back like that. So very mobile. That's a platform, if I may use jargon with you, that's called TEL, which is Transporter Erector Launcher, Very mobile. Now, theoretically, suppose you had one in Bhuj. If you had one in Bhuj, what happens to Pakistan Navy? Just as a deterrent. The problem with naval warfare is, as Admiral Arun Prakash, our former Navy chief, explained, when there were many questions about why the Navy was not used in Op Sindoor, he explained that when you use the Navy, you go up the ladder of escalation. Why? Because an air force, air power can be exercised from your own airspace, or if need be, you can go to the enemy's airspace. Similarly, long-range artillery, missiles can be used from your territory going into the adversary's territory. But when the Navy operates, by definition, it has to operate from international waters, because territorial waters are very close by to a country's coastline. No Navy today will go into any country's territorial waters. You have to be far away in international waters. Once you operate from international waters, international maritime areas, then many other constraints come in the way, many other questions come in the way. Every other country wants freedom of navigation. That is another level of escalation. How to avoid that escalation and yet place deterrence, say on Pakistan Navy, or deterrence on Pakistan? If you do this, then think about the fact that you could be hit in such a manner. If you placed this launcher, say in Bhuj, in fact, you don't even have to go as far as Bhuj. You could even be 500 kilometers south of Bhuj. But if you fired a missile like this from there, and if this missile has the range, I will just tell you some distances. I will just tell you some distances using Bhuj as an example. Bhuj to Karachi is some 330 kilometers. Maybe you will also not need this aircraft. Maybe you will also not need this missile if you're firing from Bhuj to Karachi, because this much even the land-launched BrahMos missile can do. But you can put it another 500 kilometers away and it will still be able to take out almost any ship in Karachi harbor. Again, using Bhuj as your base, using Bhuj your base for understanding. So Bhuj to Pasni is 679 kilometers, Bhuj to Gwadar is 793 kilometers. Now, I only used Bhuj as a notional place. You could be placing this missile anywhere within your territory and be taking out or attacking or threatening any Pakistani Navy ship anywhere on Pakistani coastline, right? Anywhere on Pakistan coastline, which means the entire Makran coast, the Baluch coast, all of that will then be exposed. And that's how this can become a very big deterrent. On the other hand, if you took it, say, to Nicobar, when we have new bases coming up, Nicobar, any of the Andaman bases, with these missiles, a few launchers, you can cover almost the entire Arabian Sea. To that extent, this becomes a very big deterrent in that area also. And imagine also if you had a couple of launchers or maybe more also positioned in the Lakshadweep Islands. Each one of these will then become a big force multiplier and also a deterrent. Because remember, the warfare now is all non-contact. It's all about minimizing your own attrition. It's all about deterring the adversary by threatening a very large punishment while minimizing your own attrition, or actually making it nearly impossible for the other side to inflict any. That is the tussle India is on. On the one hand, with Pakistan, to deter Pakistan from carrying out more terror attacks with the presumption that these will draw retribution like this, and with the Chinese deterrence of a different kind by way of an area denial or sea denial, or what is called as anti-access area denial, A2AD. That is the most frequently used jargon in defense speak. Think again of launchers like this sitting in Nicobar, in the new base or around that, and see how far they reach to the east, right across Malacca Strait, and to the west, covering almost the entire expanse of Arabian Sea. Between that, the Andamans and the Indian peninsular coastline, you could cover all of that region. That is what this means. And finally, the story that I promised you, I will tell you before I let you go. So this is 2001, 2002, I think early 2002. Op Parakram is on. There is a big sentiment in the country that we must go to war with Pakistan. We must launch all-out war in Pakistan. All the armed forces had been mobilized. They were all sitting on the border. It was like war will start now, it will start then. There was a Kaluchak massacre, couple of other things that became very close things. And the mood in the country was, let's go to war. So at that point, the admiral in charge of the Western Fleet, I ran into him someplace in Bombay at one of these events, and we were chatting, and he was philosophically talking, and he was saying, look, everybody says, let's go to war, let's go to war. Do they understand what war is? And he said, I so feel like pulling out my coastal batteries, putting the guns on Chapati, on Juhu, on the seafront in Worli. Let people see these guns. In any case, I'll have to put up anti-aircraft guns all along my coastline. Once people see these guns on their beaches, along their beaches, and visible from their homes and their towers, then they'll say, "Arey Baba, war is a very serious thing. We all thought war is fought in some very distant place and by other people, so let them fight it. War can always come home." Once again, the idea of weapon systems like these is to ensure that war doesn't come home. It is not about fighting wars, it's about avoiding the need to have to fight wars.